Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our monthly town council meeting. I wanted to apologize. We had some technical difficulties, and under the governor's order, if we hold in-person meetings, we have to have them broadcast to the public, so that's the reason for the delay. And again, I apologize. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and just for the record, this is the first time since February 2020 that we are all together in the same room. And for those of you who don't recognize him, this is Bruce Fry. Welcome, Mr. Fry. We also have Town Manager Cliff Gravier, John Apple, Assistant Town Manager Will Wharton, our IT person, and Molly Daisy will be taking minutes. Before we begin, I'd like to ask Mr. Gravier to please explain to those listening how they might be able to comment or submit any questions during the meeting. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, Council, in addition to the traditional platform Granicus that is available on our town website, this meeting may also be viewed on YouTube, and the site for YouTube would be youtube.com/BethanyBeachGov, with Bethany, the B in Bethany being capitalized, the B in Beach being capitalized, and the G in Gov being capitalized. Those two platforms will carry the meeting live. If you have any questions regarding any issue or comments on the meeting, you may send those comments or questions to questions@townofbethanybeach.com. That's questions@townofbethanybeach.com, all lowercase. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gravier. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have we done it before I was a state by having our backs to the audience?
Only if you're speaking.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? That's Mr. Healy, second. Mrs. Denault. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ayes carry it. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on April 16th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Morris, Mrs. Denault, second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Okay, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is approval of the financial report. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. This report covers the budget through April 30th, 2021. We are 8% through the fiscal year 2022. In total, on the revenue side, we have collected 4.9% of budget revenue as compared to 3% at this time last year. On the expense side, we've expended 6.3% of the budget amount compared to 5.7% expended at this time last year. Recognizing this report is subject to audit, I respectfully move that the council accept and approve this unaudited report.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Shepley. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is approval of the tax adjustment list. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, you have received a list of 10 homes in Bethany that have either had additions or new homes requiring property tax adjustments. I make the motion that these adjustments be accepted as presented.
Have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Shepley, second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda would be announcement and recognition of visitors and public comment. Does anyone have anything? I'd like to mention one thing. A couple of weeks ago, on May 7th, the Valor Awards were presented, the Joshua M. Freeman Valor Awards were presented over in Bayside at Signatures Restaurant. And these awards are presented annually for the outstanding police officers, paramedics, firefighters, and EMTs who serve and protect the various communities in our area. And the honored recipient this year from Bethany Beach Police Department was Sergeant Chuck Sharp. And his outstanding service that he performed was instrumental in the department's being able to maintain its top-rated national professional accreditation by the Commission on Accreditation of Law Enforcement. We all know that as CALEA. You may also recall that Sergeant Sharp was responsible for tracking down the 2 young men who defaced the bandstand plaza and other property throughout the area with graffiti. And I thought the CALEA Awards are really outstanding. We hear a lot about them, the name, but it's a remarkable achievement, and especially for any department, but especially for a small department like Bethany Beach. There are strict professional standards that must be maintained and met. CALEA is an independent accrediting authority. It was created by the 4 major large law enforcement membership associations: the International Association of Police Chiefs, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the National Sheriff's Association, and the Police Executive Research Forum. And these accreditation standards reflect the current thinking and experience of law enforcement practitioners and researchers. Bethany Beach Police Department is one of the smallest agencies in the nation to receive this honor, and it's the smallest of only 8 agencies in Delaware that are accredited. So I think that our police department, we are very proud of them, and there's a lot of good reason to be, and this is just one of them, the professional standards they maintain. So we're very proud of Sergeant Sharp and of all the officers and first responders in our community and all their dedicated service. So that's all I have. Are there nobody from the public making any comment yet?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to reports now. We have a report from the Stormwater and Tidal Flooding Committee. Mr. Fry.
Yes, Mayor. The Stormwater and Tidal Flooding Committee had its second Zoom meeting on April 29th. The full committee was tuned in, along with Town Manager Cliff Gravier, Assistant Town Manager John Apple, and our special guest, Brett Warner. We had a productive discussion of Ron Califf's initiative to create a homeowner's best practices guide for reducing flooding at your property. It lists 9 ideas from French drains to water gardens and includes photos of successful adaptations in Bethany Beach. We realize that most Bethany Beach is below sea level and therefore is very subject to tidal flooding and slow drainage. But these 9 suggestions can help you mitigate the problem. Our next step is to send the document to the Town Council for their suggestions and approval. Then we plan to place it on the town website and send the link out to residents via our town listserv and via the Bethany Beach Landowners Association.
Very good, thank you. That was a very interesting meeting. I listened in. Very helpful and instructive. Thank you, Mr. Fry. Now we have a report. Oh, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Fry? No? Okay. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Audit Committee. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm reading this for Mr. Peterson, who is not here. The Audit Committee met on Friday, May the 7th at 10 a.m. This was our first face-to-face meeting since January 24th, 2020, although we have been keeping up through email. I introduced our newest member, David McCanty, and went over our responsibilities for both internal and external audit programs for his benefit. We met with the external audit team from TGM Group, and Herb Geary is back with us as responsible partner on this review. We discussed the audit plan and agreed to credit card purchases as area of our emphasis. There's also a requirement for a compliance audit on the funds we received to cover COVID revenue losses. They are still awaiting guidance in this area, which will delay the final report for compliance part of the audit. We also discussed the committee's effort to continue our internal audit program, even though the position was vacated due to Phil Rossi's retirement. We have been reviewing the bank accounts and accounts payable every month and selecting standout items to make sure all procurement guidelines are followed. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Friday, July the 3rd at 10 a.m. to cover the closeout of the external audit. That's Chuck's report.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Mr. Shepley will present the report for Mr. Boswell, who's not here.
Thank you, Mayor. Planning and Zoning Commission report from John Gahn. The commission met on April 17. It had previously given Mrs. Jo Carol Onofre a letter to proceed with a planned residential development project at 857 Atlantic Avenue in April 2020. The letter to proceed gave her 1 year to begin substantial work on the project. She had not begun, and initially, she had requested a 6-month extension. Prior to the meeting, she withdrew that request, and consequently, the original letter to proceed expired, and the project authorization expired with it. The property is up for sale now. The commission proceeded to old business, reviewing and updating the new 2022 to 2032 comprehensive plan. That work will continue at the May meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Shepley. The next item on the agenda is a report from the town manager, Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, Council, with each passing day as we get closer to summer of 2021, it seems as if summer will be very, very close to pre-COVID days. The latest change in the emergency orders from the governor's office have removed most mask requirements, and with that happening, we made application to the Delaware Department of Health and Human Services to conduct our bandstand shows, our beach movies, have fireworks, and have our craft show with very little regulation, or the regulation that was required by DHHS. All of those events, the bandstand performances, the movies on the beach, fireworks, and the craft show were all approved. Subsequently, the craft show committee met and decided that they would not have enough time to effectively put together the craft show between now and the 5th, with the permission coming so late and the application being made so late, and they have canceled the show until next year. The approvals we have received from the Department of Health and Human Services require us to do a few things. First and foremost is some markings or some indication that clearly delineates what 3 feet of social distance would look like. To that end, we will start putting yardsticks on or close to our sandwich boards, and we'll have sandwich boards placed at most locations that advise people that if you are not vaccinated, that you should wear a mask. We'll also be running the trolley this year. I know a lot of people are happy about that, but one of the issues that comes with running the trolley is the state mandate and the CDC mandate that public transportation users wear masks. There is no equivocation we can find in what the state says and the CDC says, but we will ask the Department of Health and Human Services if it's possible we can get a variance, because we foresee issues when people walk out of their doors into the outdoors, walk up to the trolley, which is essentially outdoors, and want to ride the trolley without a mask. Our drivers will have masks to give to people, but we certainly would prefer not to have to mandate the masks when the sides or the shields in the trolley are up and open. Staffing this year for Beach Patrol, the captain has met his staffing level, and I hope he has hired, I believe he's hired 1 or 2 additional people in case he does have issues, as he did last year with COVID. And the parking department has also met its requirement. As I mentioned last month, we were having issues with seasonal police hires. We had 7 people that were pre-hired and ready to start our training process for seasonal police officers resign the positions before the season even began. We were concerned about that. The police department was able to add 4 more people, bringing the total to 14. That has become less of an issue because we were concerned regarding COVID restrictions and our ability to enforce those restrictions. And with that in mind, before these latest changes occurred, our staff that we use to do beach code enforcement, which just a couple of years ago was 2 people, we now have hired 7 people to help us. That won't be a negative, and I think we probably will need them this year because by all indications, we're going to have a very, very busy summer. And certainly for those of you who have visited the beach lately, this is the largest beach we have had going into a summer season that I can remember here in recent years. We use the people that work on the code enforcement side of things to very softly enforce code issues on the beach and in the boardwalk. Dogs, bicycles, tents, the canopies, and this year we'll be adding the oversized, the large holes on the beach. Enforcement is done very in a low-key manner. These people that perform this function for us are not sworn police officers. They do not have the power of arrest. And generally, they're John's crew, and John screens them and makes sure that they bring his approach to enforcement to bear, and that's a very positive thing. John, having only made 5 arrests in his entire career, 6 maybe, as code enforcement officer. Geez, John. This summer we are opening our information booth. In years past, the last couple of years, we have staffed the information booth with, it's been staffed by chamber employees. They staffed it when they had employees available or volunteers available, and the opening and closing of the booth was sort of was hard to plan on when it was going to be open and available to the public. This year we have staffed it, and it will be open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And one of the things we'll also be doing at the booth is offering free masks to anyone that wants one or would ask for one. In talking about masks, and as we begin the summer, I think it's important at this point in time that you all know, and anybody that listens or pays attention to these meetings or press coverage knows what we will be doing with mask enforcement this year, and what we do will be based on what the CDC says. The CDC's mask guidance, which the state refers to in its emergency order, and the state's very specific, they're following mask guidance dictated by the CDC, says that fully vaccinated no longer need to wear a mask or physically distance in any setting except where required by federal, state, local, tribal, or territorial laws, rules, and regulations, including local business and workplace guidance. So again, no longer need to wear a mask if vaccinated in any setting except. Unvaccinated says everyone 2 years and older should wear a mask. Masks should be worn in addition to staying at least 6 feet apart, especially around people who don't live with you, and that's unvaccinated. But the key word here, and we've already received a couple of emails about what we'll be doing to enforce mask compliance on unvaccinated people, is that should. And so I don't believe town staff will be doing anything as it relates specifically to enforce mask compliance unless it's in a specific business and businesses are given the right to demand masks by the emergency order. And if we have someone refusing to wear a mask in a business or a building where the owner has requested it, then that will become a law enforcement issue and not a code compliance issue. Small cell installations. Over the last few years, we have looked at a variety of pieces of legislation designed to help us to try to control as best we could small cell installation. We've just developed a piece of legislation we think is as effective as we could enact. You all have voted on that over the last couple of months. It's in place, but one of the things that we have said during all development of an ordinance dealing with small cells is that because of the latitude given providers by the federal government, at the end of the day, there is not a lot we can regulate. We've been contacted by AT&T, their representative, and we're beginning a dialogue with AT&T, And AT&T has asked us if they can replace stop signs at different locations, and they have not provided us with locations yet, and replace the traditional stop sign, which is on a 4-inch wide steel pole that's approximately 8 feet above the ground, with camouflage poles. These camouflage poles will be 28 feet tall and at a minimum 8 inches wide, and they'll be basically whatever color we would like. There'll be the canister for the broadcast antennas at the top, and it'll have a stop sign on it. We have gone back to our engineering company, and as you are aware, we have hired Johnson, Merriman, and Thompson to administer our small cell ordinance and to use their expertise to make sure that vendors do comply with the very technical rules that we enacted. And we've gone back to them to ask them what we might be able to do to change that, or if needed, prohibit it. And at the end of the day, if AT&T tells us that they are not able to co-locate on any other existing poles, we're mandated to let them do what they would like to do. And that is one of two things. They're offering to put the stop sign pole up at camouflage small cell installation, or if we'd say no to that, then we'll have a wooden pole in a right-of-way very close to that intersection where they wanted to place the stop sign. What we are going to do is go back to see if there are any other designs, to see if those intersections might better lend themselves to a camouflage light pole, or anything else in the very small catalog of what these vendors provide for camouflage small cells. The selection isn't very large, and I'm afraid we're going to probably have some 28-foot tall stop signs before this is all over. Comcast has finally, after many months and John working hard to make sure that they didn't forget us, they brought their internet lines into Town Hall. They brought them into our server room. A number of months ago, we took delivery of our new Verizon phone system, and those are the boxes that you see under tables up in the small meeting room upstairs. And we've been waiting to do the installation and activate that system when Comcast was finally here. Comcast is months behind schedule. We have made the decision to go ahead and do the install and do the conversion. There may be some problems. I hope not, but I think at the end of the day, when the system is in place, we will have benefited from it far, far and above any small hiccups we may have in the installation. So if you hear from constituents in September that they weren't able to reach us in June, July, and August, you'll know why. Mayor, that's all I have.
Any questions?
Cliff, if you mentioned, I missed it. How many stop signs are we talking about?
We don't know yet. They've only come to us and wanted to know, taking our temperature over.
Certainly not every one. That'd be crazy.
No. And again, I think their focus will be probably very similar to Verizon's right now, which is simply 5G cell phone service. And that'll be in areas where they believe they'll probably have the largest concentration of 5G customers, and most of those, again, are out of the area coming to the area.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Gravier.
Mayor?
The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on an adjustment to the FY 2021 special fund budget to match grant funds actually received. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. We need to amend the special fund budget for fiscal year 2021. Each year, the town applies for grants from federal, state, and other sources. In fiscal year 2021, we received $227,940 more than we had in our budget. This amendment will adjust the revenue and expense budget to match the grants awarded to the town. The town also has been allocated an estimated $634,834 from the America Rescue Plan for COVID-19 relief. These funds can be used to replace lost revenue and reduce revenue for COVID-19 expenses or expenses in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. I make the motion to adjust the fiscal year 2021 budget as required to incorporate these funds.
Second, Mr. Denault. Any questions, any comments? Mr. Shepherd?
Mayor, I think in Mr. Peterson's audit committee report, he mentioned a compliance audit that we're going to be required to do this year, go through this year, having to do with COVID funds. Is this, do you know, Mr. Morse, if this $634,000 is the grant that this compliance audit is going to deal with?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
I know that Janet is diligently looking into how to distribute this money, and it's not as simple as we have lost money in one account. It's not simple at all. It's quite complicated, so she's working on it.
And are we scheduled to receive these funds, the $634,000, over 2 payments?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Have we
But-
received any, the first payment?
I don't believe so, and I think she's still in the process. No one was sure what the process would be. The process has come down and it's extremely complicated.
Yeah.
So she's in the midst of trying to put that together right now.
Thank you.
And there have been ongoing Zoom meetings about this, haven't there, with,
Yes,
Guidance?
there's a lot of ongoing dialogue about it.
yeah, so I don't think anything's quite settled yet. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and second. Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on a draft resolution requesting the Delaware Department of Transportation reduce the speed limit along Kent Avenue corridor within the corporate limits of the town of Bethany Beach, Delaware. Mr. Ravier.
Mayor, Council, this resolution is a product of a citizen's interest and persistence in talking to the town about the speed limit on Kent Avenue. Since I have been in Bethany Beach, which is a good number of years, we have asked the Delaware Department of Transportation at least a half dozen different times to consider lowering the speed limit on Kent Avenue. It's an ongoing complaint from people that live in that quadrant of town, and certainly it deserves some consideration. DelDOT over the years has just summarily dismissed the request from the town, from my office, from the police department, out of hand, advising that we didn't meet whatever engineering criteria existed for them to revise the speed limit. DelDOT in recent years has taken a really different approach to what they do within municipal governments here in Delaware, and an indication of that are the median lights we now have, the warning lights we have on Route 1, the 2 new ones that are going in, their permission and their approval to let us put a warning light and do some redesign on Kent Avenue if we absorb the cost, and this resolution. A gentleman that lives on Collins had written this 1 or 2 times and called 1 or 2 times. Mr. Gowan lives on Collins, and we told him what we traditionally tell him, and that we've made the request many times, and DelDOT has not responded. And I think we've done that as recently as about 18 months ago, once again asked them to make a change there. Well, we explained that to Mr. Gowan. Mr. Gowan says, well, you're wrong, because I've spoken to a DelDOT representative that says that you probably can have the speed changed. And we said, no, we can't. But in the meantime, I asked the chief of police to ask the question again, and he did. And he was advised that if the town passes a resolution asking the Delaware Department of Transportation to lower the speed on the road that they own and control, but within our municipal boundaries, that they will probably more than consider that. So with that, this is a resolution that I would like the council to move on, that we can present to DelDOT regarding speed limits on Kent Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Gravier. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we reduce the speed on Kent Avenue from 35 or 30, whatever it is, to 25 miles an hour.
That we approve the resolution. Yeah,
As a
yeah,
yes.
okay. Do I have a second? Okay, Mrs. Denault. Any discussion?
Cliff, what are the chances this will be successful? Do we have any idea?
I have the impression that it will be successful, and that DelDOT, if we pass this, will actually also consider lowering the speed out of our jurisdiction from the south end to the bridge, which would impact Sea Colony and that traffic in there, which would slow people down before they get to our borders also.
All right. Do you think this is because of change of leadership at DelDOT?
Well, some of the positive things that were done under the former secretary. So I think this might just be a continuation.
Good.
And again, maybe not using engineering criteria as an excuse to do nothing, but actually listening to citizen input to do something. So
Because I recall, if I'm incorrect, tell me, if the town did this on their own without permission, then you really couldn't give a ticket for someone who was going above the speed limit when it's not, because that's a state road, that you could not enforce that. Is that correct?
I think there's probably other legal complications because it's not our roadway. So I think the issuing the ticket might just be the least of it.
I mean, but that's one of the reasons to make it official too, so,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
And also, is it true that there are, by statute, in the statutes in Delaware, that there are minimum speed limits? In other words, they wouldn't be able to lower it because of the law below the 25 for us?
I believe there's a blanket piece of legislation that says that the state will follow X standards, and those standards establish different criteria for speed limits. That's why we can't lower speed limits below these national standards. For instance, if we want to take our residential area and make it 15 instead of 25, that move doesn't meet those standards. So the Delaware Department of Transportation won't allow you to do it, and it ends up being an issue itself legally.
Okay. But the 25 is within those?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote to repeal the mask ordinance to require individuals to wear a face covering on the boardwalk plaza, and anywhere in the downtown commercial area, which was passed on July 1st, 2020. Mr. Kilmer.
Thank you, Mayor. As was official today at 8 o'clock this morning, the state of Delaware had issued new guidelines regarding the use of masks. Our town manager earlier at this meeting went into great detail about where masks still must be used. But since the state follows CDC and the town follows the state regulations, I make a motion that we repeal the mask ordinance that we currently have on file that was passed on July 1st, 2020.
There a second?
Second.
Mr. Shepherd, second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And the last item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote regarding proceeding with the fireworks on the evening of July 5th, 2021. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, I think this is just a matter of process. Earlier, I mentioned that the Department of Health and Human Services, again with the state's very recent and very significant change in policy regarding masking and distancing and COVID, having approved our application for fireworks, would the council like to proceed and have fireworks as scheduled for July 5th?
A motion?
I make a motion that we do proceed with our fireworks on July 5th as suggested by the town manager.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Morris, second. Any discussion? I guess we're all looking forward to it.
I just said boo.
Oh, we have boom.
I think that would be a nice thing, a whole change
Yeah.
from previous years. And, you know, there's a lot of people here at this time of the year, that
Right.
time of the year. And I think a lot of people are really looking forward to that family kind of entertainment.
Yeah, I do too.
And they can spread out on the beach, it's not gonna be like this.
You can go down and measure. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. A second, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Granier. Any comments before we end? Anybody, has anybody from the public commented or,
Did you want to know about them, Mayor?
huh?
Did you want to know about the comments? No, Mayor, there have been no comments.
Thank you. I just wanted to
Yes.
check for the record so that people know that we're paying attention to it, to whatever words of wisdom or questions come our way. Since there's no other business to attend to, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Okay, Mr. Kilmer, second?
That was Faith.
Oh,
Faith?
Faith, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.